I do want to acknowledge that I'm streaming over Boba Fett again. I apologize for that. I just looked at my schedule, and Thursday night was the only time to do it. So there you go. Sorry, Boba Fett. I'm testing batteries. The first battery I'm going to test is this Infinity 1300. The 1500 tested really, really well in my round 1 testing. It held 60 amps for like 28 seconds, I think, which is shockingly, suspiciously good, honestly. So we'll see if this 1300 does just as good. If you want to know more about my test protocols, go back and watch my Group 1 testing. If I have my shit together, I will put a link to that down in the video description. If not, you can search my channel for Group 1 battery testing, or there's a playlist of my battery tests, and where I discuss my procedure in really, honestly, more depth than most people would ever want. But if you want to know more about it, you can. What I'm doing here is I'm discharging these batteries down to 14.0 volts from full charge at 60 amps. And the idea is that 60 amps is a pretty healthy discharge, and we're going to see how long they take. And the other question people ask is, why 14 volts? And the answer to that is, just had to pick something. Just had to pick something. And 14 volts, it's like 3.5 volts per cell. I think if you're regularly discharging below 3.5 volts per cell, you're hurting your batteries. Some people hit their batteries harder. Some people don't hit their batteries as hard. Just got to pick a number and be consistent, and that's the number I picked. So we're going to do that until the battery rests at, I think it's 15 is where I do it at. 14, 15, yeah, 14. Oh, I should look that up. Should make sure I get that consistent. Yeah, I don't want to be inconsistent about this. It's been a little while since I did one of these. Yeah, I think 14 is good. I did test the 15 last time. Hang on. Discharge to 14. Yeah, okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to discharge to 14 volts, and then it's going to sag, and then it's going to come back, and when it rests at 15, we're going to call that done, because that's what I do when I'm flying. It sags down to 14.2, 14.1, and then but when you land, it recovers. Okay, so with all that said, you'll get it. You'll see. You'll figure it out. Here is the Infinity 1300 graphene. Let me see if I can figure out a way to get that in the shot and get that so you can see that. Oh, here, hang on. Make sure you can read the darn screen. And here, hang on. There we go. Okay, here we go. Ready and go. Now it's surging a little over 60 right now, but then it'll settle down to 60. Oh, it dropped. I wasn't even paying attention. It dropped to 14 immediately. Okay, so that's not spectacular. The 1500 did 60 amps for like 28 seconds. This particular one, it barely did. I don't know, it barely. I was so busy talking to you, I didn't even see it. Let's do another. It's now rebounded to 16.37. Let's do another one. There goes. I'm going to stop when it hits 14 volts. Now that was a little better. Usually I find that the second surge is a little longer, maybe a lot longer than the first surge. And the reason I think is that the battery warms up. The first surge I can already feel the battery is a little warm. The first surge warms it up, and so the internal resistance drops. So we're going to keep going now. There we go, 14. It's rebounding. So I can already tell you this is not a spectacular battery. The spectacular battery is going to give you 5 or 10 second bursts at 60 amps. And this one is already to the point where we're down in the couple of single digit seconds of bursts, and we're sagging a lot. Okay. Yep, it's coming back up again. So I can already tell there's going to be a lot of bursts here. And the fewer bursts, the better, because the ideal would be the battery delivers all of its current, all of its amps, all of its charge in one big long burst. That's not what's happening here. Audio is laggy. That's a shame. Hold on, I might be able to fix that. Lots of technical details here. I'll fix that after this one. So then I count how many bursts there were and how long total we got out of the battery before it was done. And of course other things like milliamp hours and so forth. Almost done here. No, Julian, you have no audio lag? Well, then it must not be on my end. You're late to the party. What did you miss? Adam, you missed about a half hour of me trying to get my computer to stream correctly. See, now we're at 15.06 volts, and I'm probably going to call this one. All right, 15.12. We'll give it another burst. And we're going to call that good. Then the other thing that I do is I will measure the temperature, and I'll just slide this all over the battery looking for the hottest spot. There's 117. I had a 117. 115, 7. Okay, so this one's going to be 117, 118 is the temperature. Lower temperature is obviously better. The best batteries are under about 115. Decent batteries are under about 120. Anything between about 120, 125 and higher is not going to be a spectacular battery. So that's it for this battery. We're done. 1 second of lag. Video is behind the audio. Okay, I know why that is. Hold on, I'm going to fix that. All right, we're going to do another battery, and then you can tell me, that's it. That's one battery. That's done. We're going to do the next one. That was the Infinity. Let's do this one. Let's do this one. This is MaxAmps, and in the 20 amp discharge rate, I was not ultra impressed with it. That was the Infinity 1300 graphene. The MaxAmps, it was like 135 degrees at the end of the test, and that was a 20 amp discharge, which is not a very aggressive discharge. It had a great energy density. The power density was great, but the actual temperature was bad, and so the internal resistance was also high on this battery. So I do not think this battery is going to do great. In fact, I hesitate to even test it at 60 amps because it got so hot in the 20 amp test, but I'm going to do it. Well, so is this Infinity worse than the last one? Yes, definitively. The 1500 Infinity that I tested last time did a 28-second 60 amp burst, which is extraordinary. It's excellent. Now that could have been an exception. I still have that battery. I've flown it some. We could test it again and see how it does. But there was the same conditions. They were brand new, straight out of the box, and this one did not do as well. Now, the thing is, if you send me another 1500, and I actually have some in the mail, I have 5 1500s and 5 of these 1300s coming. I'm going to test those and see if they test as good as the one I tested 3 months ago, and maybe they won't. So it could have been a fluke. You never know. But this one was not as good as the last one. Audio is in sync. Perfect. Yeah, I know why that. I got that. So let's do this one. I'm going to be monitoring the temperature of this one very closely during this test to make sure it is not going to do anything dramatic. So here we go. This is the MaxAmps 1800, and go. Boom. There. Did you see that? You blink and you missed it. It went to 13.8 volts instantly. I'm going to do it again. Ready? Boom, 13.75 instantly. This battery can't do 60 amps. It's done. That's it. This battery, the MaxAmps. Here's what I have to say nice about this battery. It had an excellent. This is an 1800, but look at the size of it. Look at the size of it compared to like this 1300, right? This has excellent energy density. This would be a good battery for a low discharge, high, where you want to save weight and you're not going to pull more than 10 or 15 amps. This is not a good battery for a mini quad. Now, I was really surprised to say that because MaxAmps has a good name, and I expect this to be a controversial result. If MaxAmps or a dealer wants to send me another battery, or maybe it would be even better if one of you guys sent me one so that it wouldn't be cherry-picked by a dealer or vendor. But this could be a fluke. I could just have a bad battery. It sat on the shelf at the warehouse too long. I'm really surprised at how badly this battery's done. But this specific battery it's not good. So there you go. That's it. Are these mini quads pulling 60 amps frequently? Not a sustained 60 amps, no. But I pull 60 amps at high throttle during a high throttle punch out over some trees, or when racing at 45 degrees up tilt. Yeah, absolutely. Pull a sustained 50 amps and 60 or 80 amps in the corners when I'm really jamming the throttle. Absolutely. The reason I'm doing the 60 amp test is in the first round of tests, I did 20, then I did 40, then I did 60, and I would have done 80, but so few of the batteries did a decent job at 60, I said there's no point in going on. So my goal is not necessarily to represent exactly what we do in flight, but it's just to have a standardized test methodology that I can use to compare these batteries in a sort of a rigorous way. Yeah, this battery is labeled True 100C. No. This battery can't even do 15C without going to 135 degrees. That's not a battery. And that's why I think this battery must be defective. I must have just got a bad one. And I was tempted to just throw it out and not test it, but that wouldn't be honest, right? If this is a bad battery, let's get a good one and have it redeem itself. But I will report that this particular one did not do a great job. Okay, moving on. I have, what have I got here? Oh, here's a good one. This is the ROC Rock Gloomy. I don't know what that means. Rock Gloomy. This is the battery that came with the Jaguar quadcopter that I built. It came with it. So it's included with like a pseudo ready to fly copter. So it must be like cheap and terrible, right? Let's find out. Rock Gloomy. I don't know what that means. Here we go. There you go. That's respectable. That's like a 4-second first surge. The second surge is going to be a little longer, usually, because the battery is warmed up and the internal resistance is dropped. Here we go. Respectable. So that's not spectacular, but it is respectable. We'll keep going until we're done. To quantify punch, a methodology to quantify punch. Well, I think a battery with punch means a battery that can deliver peaks without sagging. And you're right that there's a difference between a battery that can deliver a sustained 60 amps for 15 seconds and a battery that could deliver 100 amps for 1 second, and then 100 amps for 1 second, and then 100 amps for 1 second. Those are different batteries. The design of the battery would be different. The test procedure would have to be different. And a battery that will do well at one of those may not do well at the other. So just because a battery does bad in this test might mean that it's still good. You know, it doesn't necessarily mean it's bad at flying, because as people have pointed out, how often do you just hit 60 amps and stay there? You know, I would venture to say that this MaxAmps probably would not be a good flying battery because it's so saggy. But many batteries that don't excel in this test are still average or good batteries for flying with, because I'm really working these batteries hard. My goal here is to beat the crap out of these batteries, and anybody who survives is really good. And anybody who half survives and then fails out is still pretty good. That's my goal here. You're right, though, that a punchy battery, what you need is a battery that can deliver many short bursts rather than longer sustained bursts. That's a different battery, and a different test procedure might find those batteries better. I'm just not really set up to do that in a quantifiable way. What I would need to do that is some kind of electronically controlled switch that could test the batteries and could do a 100 amp pulse for a half a second and a 100 amp pulse for a half a second in a repeatable way, and I'm not set up for that. Yes, you can parallel charge the same as long as the voltage is the same. The milliamp hours doesn't really matter, and the C rating really doesn't matter, because you shouldn't really be charging, especially when parallel charging, you shouldn't really be charging at more than about 1 C anyway. where 1C is the total the total capacity of all of the packs. So if you have 5 1000 milliamp packs, that's 5000 milliamp hours, which would be 5 amps charge rate. You don't want to go much above that because the charge is not always perfectly evenly divided between the batteries. So if you have 5 1000 milliamp hour batteries in a parallel charge and you're charging at 5 amps, one of the batteries might be getting like 1.2 amps and one of them might be getting 0.8 amps. And that depends on various things. I haven't actually really nailed down what the root cause of that is. But the point is that it may be safe to charge a battery at 2C. Hang on. Yeah, we're done here. Where's my, let me get the temperature for this one. Temperature for this one is going to be 112. That's respectable. 114. 114 we're going to call that. That was the Rock Gloomy 1300 4S. That's the battery that comes with the FlyPro XJaguar flight controller or quadcopter. And you guys, I'm going to go back and put these all in a spreadsheet later, but of course I'm not going to do that on the live stream. So, you know, as far as analysis of the results, it'll take a little time yet. Yeah, C rating on the batteries. C rating on batteries is, in fact, total crap. It's just nonsense. It's nonsense. In fact, here, hang on. Here we go. Boom. There you go. 100C. Perfect. You put that on any battery you want. You got a 100C battery. That's what the manufacturers do. I did the MaxAmps. Yes, I did. It did not do great. It did terrible, actually. It could not take 60 amps for even 1 second. But to give it credit, the power density was fantastic. It had the watt hours per gram is spectacular, but the current carry capacity is not good. Now here's the next one we're going to do. I have 3 of these. This is a GN3 1500. I have 3 batteries from GN3. I had not heard of them before I got them for the test. How much? Yeah, how much is the MaxAmps? I mean, I wouldn't buy it. The thing is, it's legit an 1800. And to get an 1800 in a battery this small is extraordinary. I probably shouldn't put that guy's phone number on the live stream. It's extraordinary. So it's legit an 1800. It's just an 18. You've given up something for the fact that you've got an 1800 in that very small package, and that is that it can't deliver current. It's got capacity, but it can't deliver current. Okay, here goes the GN3 1500 milliamp hour. Now this is a 110. They've also sent me one that is a 120. And I'm like, really? Really? First of all, 10C. The difference is 10C. And I don't know. C rating is BS anyway, so now you're going to tell me that this one's a 110, but that one's a 120. Oh, well, thank you so much. Here we go. Respectable. Respectable. $80 for that battery? Are you serious? No. No. GNB. Oh, GNB. That's a GNB. Thank you so much for the commenters. Oh, respectable. Respectable. Those 5 or 10 second pulses, very respectable. Very respectable. And you'll notice how this battery is continuing to deliver these 4 or 5 second pulses even after, 4 or 5 pulses. Again, That's actually really good results. Yeah, don't pay, certainly don't pay $80 for the MaxAmps. I mean, don't pay $80 for any LiPo, seriously? Like, what has it got in it? Unicorn horn? Yeah, that is interesting. Hang on, we'll check that. The amp draw, this is a bucket. I have, oh, you can't see me pointing at it. I have a video about this, the high discharge load, whatever. It is a big, it's a block of wood with steel, galvanized steel, electrical fence wire wrapped around it. And it is a big 5-gallon bucket full of water. And the steel is actually a really bad conductor, and so it acts as the load. And it's basically just a great big tea kettle. So I connect the alligator clips to it in such a location that I get a consistent 60 amps draw, more or less. It's a little higher at the beginning of the test, and it's a little lower at the end of the test. And actually, it's closer to like 62 amps than 60 amps. But it's how I've done it ever since the beginning, and so I just keep doing it because, you know, apples to apples. You notice we're still getting like 2-second punches out of this battery, even at it's down almost fully discharged, and we'll give it one more pulse. We're still getting, you know, 2-second pulses. I think that's going to be it. Let's take the temperature. 120 is not spectacular, but it's actually pretty good considering this was a 60 amp test. We're going to say that temperature was 119 or 120. This was a pretty good battery. GNB 1500 milliamp hour 110C. That's a pretty good battery, honestly. No, Brandon, I assure you this is steel. It's galvanized steel, I promise. This is fence wire is not aluminum. Aluminum is too soft. It would stretch and it would snap, and it would be super, super freaking expensive to build fences out of aluminum. It's galvanized steel. I don't know where you live where they build fences out of aluminum, but this is definitely not aluminum. Also, aluminum is really conductive. If I were doing this with aluminum, I'd be pulling way more than 60 amps. Okay, this is a, oh, let's do the, where's the 110, that was 1500 110. This is 1500 120. Okay, so let's see if this one does better. I think the results will probably be so indistinct that it will I'll have to go back to the replay to see the difference. But let's find out. Here we go. Oh, that's pretty good. Oh, that was pretty good. I think that was a little longer. That was a little longer. Here we go again. Let it recover. Hit it again. That's pretty good. Those are pretty good. Pretty good. I think I can see, I think this one feels like it's doing a little better. Maybe it's just the 120 written on the label working its magic. It feels like it's pulsing a little longer. Yeah. These batteries are doing really well. This is I mean, if you haven't watched my testing, you might not know what a good battery versus a bad battery looks like. Even these 3 or 4 second pulses, while not dropping below 14 volts, that's pretty good. And if you think about a punch of throttle on a straightaway when you're racing, or a punch to go up and over a tree, you know, it probably is 3 or 4 seconds, maybe at most. And when you're doing that, you're probably willing to go down to maybe 13.6 or 13.5 instead of 14 if need be. And these batteries are, you know, they're dealing with it. What do the jumping voltages mean, asks Peter. The voltage is going down because I'm drawing current, and whenever you draw current, especially a large amount of current like I'm doing, you get sag. The more the battery sags, the less healthy the battery is, the less of a good performer the battery is. So I'm continuing, I'm letting it sag to 14 volts, and then I'm stopping the pulse, I'm breaking the circuit so that we don't damage the battery. Because 14 volts is as low as I feel. I mean, I'm going to use some of these batteries. I'm going to fly them after I'm done testing them. I don't want to just destroy them over the course of the testing. So you can see the amps goes up to 60. It's at 0 right now. And as I drop off the amps, the voltage recovers. I think I'm going to hit this one more time. Well, 1506 is where I stopped some of the others. Let's hit it one more time. Okay, and let's check the temperature. Oof, well, 120, 121, not bad. Let's check the rest of the battery. 120, no, we're going to call this 120, 121. That's perfectly respectable for a 60 amp discharge. These are good batteries. We have to look at the price, but these are really solid and good batteries. Yeah, seaweed, that's an interesting hypothesis. My first Infinity did very well. My first Infinity was not sent by Banggood, though. A viewer bought it for me and sent it to me. So Banggood did not cherry pick that. But you're not the first person to tell me that you bought Infinities based on my recommendation and they didn't seem as good as the one I tested, to which I can only say, I test the ones I test and I give you the results. I've had enough manufacturers send me batteries that turned out to be crap that I don't think they're cherry picking. I have a feeling they just dispatch it from a warehouse, right? But some of these are probably cherry picked, and there's really nothing I can do about that. I've also had it happen that a dealer sends me a battery. This happened with, I think it happened with the Tattoo. A dealer sent me the battery, and the battery didn't do well, and someone from Tattoo reached out to me and said, hey, can you give me the serial number off that battery so I can figure out what's going on with it? And long story short, they said, oh, that battery was not, that was a pre-production sample, it wasn't intended to be sold or whatever. So sometimes I get things, and you might get things if you purchase them. Maybe you got a battery that was an off, it was a gray label and it wasn't intended to be sold, right? There's so much, there's no way of verifying this except to buy brands that consistently do well. And that's why if you look, and I'm giving a plug. I don't mean to give a plug here. I'm just saying, like Luminaire batteries consistently do pretty well in my testing. Very few, if any, I have to go back and check the spreadsheet to be sure, but very few, if any, of them are just stinkers. And so, sometimes maybe you buy one brand and you get a good one, and then later you buy the same thing and you get a bad one, and it's kind of a crapshoot. If you really want to be sure, you can stick with brands that tend to perform really well. And consistently over time. Or you can just buy one of everything and see, half of them will be good. Okay. Let's do the Black Label. Now you guys have seen, yeah, Albert, that's exactly right. The only way to prevent cherry picking is to buy the batteries yourself, but that's expensive, and that's expensive. How many cycles from a typical mini quad LiPo? Well, I'll tell you that the high volts that I was running, I got 20 to 30 cycles at most, and they're not usable at all right now. If I had one handy, I'd put it on this test and show you how bad they are. I think if you get 50 cycles, you're doing pretty well, and if you get 100 cycles, you're doing great. That's what I would say. Here's the Black Label. The Black Label is from Indestructible Quads. Indestructible Quads, they make ready-to-fly and kit, but ready-to-fly quadcopters. The guy behind him, his name is Keshu, and he builds them. He started the company. I have videos about him. Search my channel for Indestructible Quads if you want to see me fly one of his copters. And so apparently he's into batteries, and you wouldn't expect this to be a spectacular battery because he's a copter builder. He's not a battery manufacturer. But there's a video up of somebody doing 130 amp discharge on this battery, 130 amps. And there's a discharge curve, right? And it shows that it goes for like, I don't know, 45 seconds or something at 130 amps. Now that's pretty respectable. I will tell you, I looked at the discharge curve. He's allowing the battery to go down to like 13.5 volts or something. I checked and it's below the 14 volts that I use as a cutoff. According to the chart, if my memory's correct, he's below 14 volts after like 5 seconds. Now he's pulling 130 amps and I'm only pulling 60, so it's not exactly the same, but we're using a slightly different standard here. I do feel that the 13.5, if you can go 130 amps for like 45 seconds or a minute, and not go below 13.5 volts. That's legitimately impressive and respectable. But it's not the exact same test I'm going to do, so we may not get the same results. Let's find out. Jumping voltages with no power while idle. Well, I mean, it's rebounding, right? It's rebounding, Peter. So it drops when it's under load, then it rebounds when it's not under load, but that's pretty obvious. I'm not sure. Yeah, no, there's no current, but this battery is it's a chemical thing. So the voltage doesn't rebound instantly because ions have to move through an electrolyte, and that doesn't happen. That happens in a finite time, not instantly fast. So this is not a capacitor, right? So when we hit it with a current and the current sags, we're sucking ions through the electrolyte from the anode to a cathode, or maybe the other way, I don't remember. and then when we remove the current, they continue to redistribute themselves toward the anode, toward the whatever. Anyway, that's why. Okay, here goes. Well, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. Wow. Wow. Somebody knew I was... There you go. Wow. No, that was really good. That was really good. It held at like 1405 for probably 5 seconds before it dropped. That's exceptional. That's a very good battery. Just based on this one test. It's a very good battery. Let's see what the temperature is at the end, because if it's 135 degrees, it's gonna burn itself out before it can really I mean it'll work really well while it lives, but it'll not get very many cycles. No, I'm sure that wasn't lagging. No, that's this. No, that wasn't lag or anything. This megameter, I'm very, very in tune with the refresh time of this megameter. I've done a lot of testing with it. No, it was just holding. It was holding. It doesn't freeze up like that, like you're thinking it might have. See, it's doing it again. No, what you've got there is that the battery, there's a discharge curve, and the curve hits a plateau, and it hit the plateau at around 14 volts and just stayed there. This battery was sent to me by Ke from Indestructible Quads. He certainly could have cherry-picked it. We can't know that. All I can do is show you what this one battery does, and you can know the caveats. And you can decide if you want to spend your money to find out for yourself if it's any good. The antidote to cherry-picking is we do like consumer reports, and I just buy batteries secretly, you know, as a consumer. And ideally, I would buy like 10 of each one. And ideally, I would buy one in January and one in February and one in March, and I would keep testing them over time. Or I would buy one in California and one in Florida. These, you know, you get to the point where you're like, well, clearly that's silly. I don't have the resources to do that. All I have the resources to do is to test the one battery I get sent and tell you what the results are. And that's more information than you had when you woke up in the morning. But it's not perfect. There's all kinds of flaws in this testing, including the fact that manufacturers can cherry pick. All right, we're at 14.94, so now it's going to rebound to 15. We're going to check the temperature. 120. Yeah, 120. That's completely fine. Below about 125 is, it's not healthy, but it's not, we're going to call that 120. Below about 125 is, for a mini quad battery, that's healthy. For a LiPo, it's really unhealthy. But for a mini quad battery, that's about as good as we can expect. The, yeah, I would say that that is an above average battery. Definitely. Above average. Well, you say you've got good LiPos there in Germany, huh? Well, sir, I'll tell you, I've got this. MyLipo.de. DE, I believe that is Deutschland, isn't it? And that's Germany. I got some German batteries right here. Let's test them. I've got a 1600, and kudos to MyLipo.de. It says 50C. That's, yeah, okay, maybe. 50C 100. Here's a 3S 1300. Send me some 3S batteries. I don't know why you would do that, but here's a 4S 1300 and a 3S 1600. Let's test them. The Black Label milliamp hours is a 1500. 1500, and I've got the weight on my spreadsheet. I'm working on it, but it's, yeah, this is a good battery. It's not exceptionally large or heavy for a 1500, and I feel like the current performance was good, and the temperature was reasonable at the end. So given all of the inherent limitations of this type of testing, I feel like this is a good bet. You don't buy 20 of them tomorrow, but buy a few of them and see if you agree that they're good. And maybe it's all a crapshoot, isn't it, with batteries? So, but you buy this one and you could be pretty confident. You know this one wasn't good. Maybe you'll get lucky and the next one will be good. No, don't buy it. This one tested good in my test, so now take a gamble with your own money. Pulse batteries. I have not tested any pulse batteries, and I do not have any in this test. The only reason for that is that no one has sent me one. I'll test any battery somebody sends me. I don't play favorites. Here is this is the MyLipo.de 1600 4S. These did okay, middle of the road in the 20 amp discharge, so I don't think they're going to be spectacular in the 60. Let's find out. Well, that's good. No, that's great. Oh, that's really nice. Yeah, that's good. That's a good battery. So far, so good. The only story I know about Pulse is that somebody brought a Pulse battery to the field. It was a guy we didn't know. We'd never met the guy before. Hang on. Pay attention to my testing. He had a Pulse battery. He was having problems getting his quadcopter wired up, working correctly. And, oh, that's really good. That's really good. That's a good battery. And so I said, oh, well, let's plug it in. Let's check it out. And he pulls out a Pulse battery, and we plug it into his copter, and we smoke it immediately. The battery is wired backwards. It had reverse polarity. Now, he swore it came from the factory that way. But I happen to know that Pulse sells batteries unterminated, and you put your own connector on them. He swore it came from the factory that way, but yeah. And I said, well, if it did come from the factory that way, that's a pretty big screw-up. Putting the connector on backwards. But I don't know if that's true. The Giant Power Graphene LiPo. I don't think I have the Giant Power. That doesn't ring a bell. This is a decent battery. We'll look at the actual, the replay. I'll pull the timing out to find out how good it is. But it's not a bad battery. The length of the pulses is pretty solid. I tested one Dynegy, I think in group 2, and it did pretty badly. And someone from Dynegy reached out to me. Hold on, 15. I think that's going to be the last one. Let's get the temperature here. 118. 118. Yeah, we're going to call that 118. That was the MyLipo.de 1600 50C 4S. Make sure I get that screen. Okay. And the guy from Dynegy reached out to me and said, you know, the batteries, I think you got a dud. You must have got a Chinese knockoff. Our batteries are way better than that. And so he sent me another one, and I tested it. It did okay. But everybody thinks their batteries are the best. Everybody. And like they're like, no, my batteries are amazing. And I don't know why they think that. I mean, if you're a reseller and you're selling batteries, you should be, and you test them, you should know whether they're good or not. So, and if you're just listening to racers blowing smoke up your ass, then shame on you. But I don't know why everybody thinks their batteries are the best. Someone has to have bad batteries out there, or worse batteries. So, there you go. This is a little bit of an oddball. This is a 1600 3S. So they sent it to me, so I'm going to test it. But I usually do 4S's. It's not going to be 60 amps because I'm not going to change the load just for this one battery. So because it's lower voltage, it's going to be lower amps. But we'll just test it. Here goes. Stay there. There you go. We're going to go down to 10.5 volts. Respectable. 10.5. It's hanging in there. It's hanging in there. Oh, geez. Geez. Wow. See, it's only a 45 amp discharge though, isn't it? So of course it's going to be different. Yeah, this is going to need its own separate test section. I don't even know how we can compare this to the other batteries. We don't have any other 3S's to compare it. Oh well, I'll run the test. 10.6. 10.5.4. Almost. Wow, I'm just going to dump the whole... It's just going to dump... There we go. That's probably just done at this point. I don't work with 3S. Hang on, calculator. 15.0 divided by 4 times 3 is 11.25. And we're almost there. 11.31. All right, we'll go one more. Well, this battery's doing a cracking good job at 45 amps. It's doing a great. I mean, if I was flying a quadcopter and pulling 45 amps, I would be incredibly happy with that amount of sag, etc. It's doing a great job. 115, 117, 118, 118. So that is the MyLipo.de 1600 milliamp hour 3S. And what do we get? 1 amp hour. That's at 45 amps. That's really respectable. That's a decent battery. Justin, I will test any battery somebody sends me. I reach out to manufacturers sometimes and ask if they want to send me the battery, but everybody has their favorite battery that they wish I would test, and there's a million of them. The best thing you can do is you can reach out to a distributor or reach out to the manufacturer, link them to my test video, and say, please send this guy a battery to test. They are more than happy to do it. You just have to put me on their radar, and I just don't have time to go reach out to every single person, all 57 manufacturers that everybody has their favorite of. So you can do it. If there's a battery you want to see me test, reach out to the manufacturer, the vendor first, or reach out to a reseller, any distributor or whatever, reseller, and say, hey, send this guy a battery. And then they'll reach out to me and they'll get in touch with me and they'll send me one. Yeah, that's what I would say about that. This is a 1300 4S. 1300 4S. Let's see how it does. Probably about as good as the 1600, but a little bit less. Here we go. So that's pulse there. Let's see if we do any better on the second one, which usually we will, because as I said, the battery warms up a little, the IR, the internal resistance goes down. That was not spectacular. No. Yeah, that's okay. That's not great. That's not great. I have a gut feeling for these things after doing so many of these freaking tests. This is not a spectacular battery. This is, I'd say it's a little less than average. It's a 1300. So it's light. It's light, that's for sure. It's smaller and lighter. If I tried the Venom, no, I don't think I've tested Venom. The only reason I was joking about, oh, why'd they bother sending me 3S is all of my other testing is 4S, so there's really nothing to compare it to. Was that a good battery or was it a bad one? I mean, if we pulled 45 amps for 30 seconds, that's respectable. That's definitely respectable. But I mean, I'm just not in a world where I'm thinking about that application because I'm not flying 3S copters, you know. You say what you want about DJI batteries. Anybody who can make a quadcopter fly for, 25 minutes on 9-inch props, that's, you build me a quadcopter that flies for 25 minutes on 9-inch props on a, what is that, a 4,000 milliamp hour. I mean, just, any milliamp hours you want. That's an engineering feat. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm just saying that they've really accomplished something by getting that flight time. 25-minute flight time is non-trivial. Let's put it that way. What's my go-to battery? Well, I'll tell you. Until recently, I would have said a Mad Dog High Volt, but I got 10 Mad Dog High Volts, 1300s and 1500s, and I got them in February, I think it was. Hang on. I think this one's almost done. Yeah. Yeah, we'll call that one. Hang on. Temperature is 118, 119, 117. We'll call it 118. That's temperature of 118. This is the MyLipo.de 1300 milliamp hour for 4S. There's your specs. I would have said a Mad Dog High Volt. I got 10 of those in February, March, April, May, June. No, that can't be right. It was like 2 months from November. Yeah, something like that. And basically, I had them for 2 months, and I flew them, and they were basically the only batteries I flew for 2 months. And that sounds like, oh, you must have gotten so many cycles. But, I mean, there's some weeks where I was on a business trip, and I didn't fly at all. So if it was 60 days, I know it was 60 days because I was like, how long have I had these batteries? And I looked at my email for when I got them, and it was like literally exactly 60 days. So let's say that at most they had 30 cycles on them, because I didn't fly every other day. No way. And probably they had less than that. And they were just done, dead. And I finally concluded that high volts don't last. And it's not like I abused them. I don't last. I made a video about that. I won't go into it. High volts are not my go-to anymore. They perform fantastic until they crap out on you and are done. And that happens way too soon. So now I'm hoping graphenes, right? And Turnigy graphenes, people say, are spectacular. They perform well. They last. They're a little heavy. They don't have high peak current, but they last without sagging. And they're really good. They'll deliver middle and high current. They'll deliver 60 amps without a lot of sag again and again and again. They may not do 120 amps like a high volt would. But I ended up getting the Infinities because they did so well in my last round of testing. So I have right now in the mail, somewhere on a boat, 5 Infinity 1500s and 5 Infinity 1300s. And I'm going to be flying them for the next 2 months, and we'll see how they do. This is the MyLipo.de 1300 3S. Here we go. Looking for 10.5 volts. Oh, that was a little cheating. Keep going. I thought 10.5, but it was 10.54. So it wasn't done yet. Yeah, see, it's hanging in there at 10.5. There you go. That was pretty good. No, I was stopping at 15.0. The same as high volts have the same bottom end as normal LiPos, but they just get overcharged at the top end. So I was stopping at 15, just like every other battery. Oh, there you go. Yeah, well, so let's talk about that. Your question about sag. So a battery that sags less, is that a better battery? Yes, but you also have to take into account things like capacity and power density. So you could build a battery that sagged more at high load. Let's say you want a battery that's only going to deliver 10 amps. Okay, so you design a battery that's made to deliver 10 amps, and if you pull 40 amps from it, it'll sag like the dickens and seem like a terrible battery. But you can get better power density, so you get more watt hours per gram than a battery that can do, maybe it could do 40 amps without sagging, but it's not gonna last as long, or it's gonna be heavier. So there's all kinds of trade-offs in battery development. I think this one is almost done. Yeah, this one's done. 11.2. This is we got 119, 120, 117, 116. Yeah, we're gonna call that 119. That was the MyLipo.de 1300 milliamp hour 3S, and there's your specs. Okay, let's bring in people say the Turnigy graphines are really amazing. They say they're really amazing. I haven't flown one. Just I haven't got around to getting one. Here's what we're going to bring in now. I have two Revolectrix. Now, these are, let me make sure that these are charged to high volt. These are high volts, and as I was saying, and as I have a video up saying, I do not recommend that you buy high volts unless you accept that you may get 20 cycles out of the pack before it's done. Maybe you'll get more, but that's what I feel confident telling you you're going to get. They're going to be spectacular cycles. A high volt, fully charged, will give you a hell of a punch. Toward the end of the pack, though, it's going to be closer to a standard LiPo, and some have argued that a graphene will be more consistent over the life of the pack, whereas a high volt is really, really powerful at the beginning, and less so at the end. I don't know. The thing is, I do not recommend high volts anymore for general purpose use, because no matter how spectacularly they perform, nobody wants to pay $35 for a battery that you get 20 cycles off of, unless you have a lot of money, in which case, more power to you. So we're going to test this, and it's probably going to do great. But because they did great in the last round of testing, but I just don't feel like I can recommend high volts anymore unless some manufacturer comes up with a new chemistry or a new way of building the batteries that makes them last. Now, I don't know for a fact that this one isn't going to last, but the last Revolectrix was really hot at the end of the test, and that's not a good sign. All right, anyway, here we go. Going to 14 volts. No, well, that was really underwhelming. The last Revolectrix 435 was it really kicked butt. That was not impressive in any way. Let's see if the next one's longer. The second one is usually longer. No, this is not a well, so it's a high volt, so it's not going to last very long, and it's not holding the burst very long either. So I don't know what to tell you about that. Yeah, I'm really disappointed. The last Revolectrix was a absolute rock star. I'm really disappointed that this one... I mean, this one, I'm not even sure what the difference is. This seems like the same one that I tested before, actually. 435 1570C. I'd have to go back and look. I think it's the same one. Revolectrix has a bunch of different formulations. This one was sent to me by Pitchroll Yaw, is the vendor, by the way. A little plug for them. Thank you for sending it to me. I think this is the same one I tested before. Maybe one of you guys could go check my last... I think it was Group 3. No, this is a GoPack. I see. This is a GoPack. I don't know what that means, but the last one was not a GoPack. So maybe that makes it different somehow. See, that was the best one so far. Now it's warming up. That's a graphene high volt spoon FPV. The GoPack is a graphene high volt. Is that what you're telling me? And they're not ready for release. Oh, so this is a pre-release. Yeah, I can't tell if graphene high volt is just, you know, the next stage of marketing BS. We went from regular to high volt to graphene. Now we have graphene high volts. Or if in some way the graphene chemistry will help mitigate some of the negative effects of the high volt. Maybe the graphene high volts will give you high volt performance but last longer, last a reasonable amount of time. Perhaps that's true. I don't know. I haven't tested this exact battery. It's definitely not performing at the same level as the regular 435 did. And it's not performing at the level of some non-high volt LiPos. Some good LiPos would do better than this. So I don't think there's a very compelling case for this battery, just based on what I'm seeing so far. The GoPacks are the graphenes. Okay, thank you guys for telling me that. Well, then it stands to reason that the graphene would not have as much of a sort of a peak current as the regular LiPos, but I don't know. This one hasn't impressed me so far. I think there's standard LiPos that do better than this one has, just based on, you know, my gut feeling for how it's done so far. 132 degrees. See, that's the final straw. That's not a battery that is going to last. And if I do want a battery that's going to be 130 freaking degrees when I get done flying it, I'll get one of the regular non-GoPack 435s, and it'll also only last 20 cycles, but at least it'll kick butt while it's doing it. This one is 130 plus degrees at the end of the test. The discharge was not spectacular. I wouldn't buy it. I hope I recorded the end of that screen before I unplugged it. Okay, well, let's do this one. King Kongs. Peter Wu, how do King Kong props compare with HQs? Well, I'll tell you one way they compare. Here, I'm going to show you. Hold on. Oh, I'll stand up for 1 second. Oh, I should have given myself a chair or a stool. Okay, here we go. This is the Quad Questions QQ190 ready to fly copter, and it has schizo blue HQ props. And what I'd like to show you is this. That's one way they compare. Now, this is a King Kong 5x4x3. Okay. Any questions? That's one way they compare. Performance-wise, perhaps, I don't know, perhaps the HQs perform a little better. The King Kongs perform very well. They're equally tunable. Perhaps the HQs, being a little stiffer, have a little more thrust. You'd have to look at some thrust. You could look at thrust tests on the bench and see if how you feel about those. Of course, people would argue, oh, those are inaccurate, right? But at the end of the day, the reason that I hate these HQ 5x4x3s, not the durables. HQ has durable props too, and those are different. Those are okay. But the reason I hate the standard HQs are that they're so freaking fragile. I'm not going to break another one just to make a point. They're so freaking fragile. You can't fly on them. As soon as you do anything, they're broken, and then you're taking them. Whereas the King Kongs, I'm still going to fly that one. That one's fine. The one I bent up is fine. So, yeah, that's how I would say they stack up. Why do you say that's an unfair test, Borg? I'm not sure if you're referring to my prop test. Here is a Revolectrix Blend 435 GoPack Silver Label 1550-70C. It is similar to this one, but it's, you can see it's a different form factor. It's a little wider and a little flatter. So, let's see how this one does. The prop test, I mean, the prop test is making a point. My point is, Board Quads, my point is that, in my opinion, and I've flown a lot of those back-to-back, the King Kong 543s are equal to the HQs in terms of handling. I can't guarantee that they're equal in terms of thrust. That's hard to judge. But I would accept that the HQs being a little softer may make a little less thrust. But my point is that I've gotten 2 copters recently that came with HQ 543s on them. One was the QQ190, and one was, it came with the Schizo blue props, and one was the Shuriken X1, which came with Mr. Steel red props. And I'm pretty sure they're the exact same props, just one is blue and one is red. And I freaking hated them because I went through 5 sets of props in an hour of flying. And the first thing that happened with that QQ190 was that the board align was not correct. So the second I throttled up, it went and flipped out, broke every single prop on it. So I was changing 4 props after 1/2 a second of throttle. Whereas you do that with a set of King Kongs and they're fine. Or maybe they're a little bent, you bend them back, right? They're not unbreakable, but you can keep flying on them. And for me, you know, being able to be in the air, if there's a difference in performance, it's so minor as to be indistinguishable. And even if there is a small difference in performance, the amount of time I spend flying instead of changing props is more than worth it to me. That's what I say. All right, here goes. Here goes the Revolectrix. Boom. Yeah, that's okay. Still in there. Still in there. Done. Okay, that wasn't spectacular, but this is a 1550, so it's a little bigger and a little bit of different shape. So they perform a little different. Oh yeah, that's respectable. That's totally respectable. Totally respectable. Albert, I completely agree. It depends on what's important to you. Mr. Steel wouldn't fly the I mean, do we know for a fact that he flies those props? I mean, his name is on them. That doesn't necessarily mean they're on his copter. I'm not accusing him of anything. I'm not making any accusations. I'm just stating a fact. The fact that a celebrity pilot sells a product with his name on it does not mean that that is what's on his copter when he's flying. But presumably those are the props he flies and the ones he likes. And, you know, if they didn't have something going for him, pilots like Mr. Steel wouldn't fly him. Personally, I would, yeah, well, I've stated my point. I don't need to repeat it. Personally, I disagree. I feel differently. I mean, I've gone back and forth between the King Kongs and the HQs. I've tuned a lot of King Kong props, a lot of copters I've tuned them, and I feel like they are a great balance of durability and performance. And frankly, I feel like they're the equal of the HQs. But that's just my opinion. That's just like my opinion, man. I mean, I'm sure somebody would put the King Kongs on their copter and feel like they were mushy and be like, oh no, I need the HQs. I will say that before King Kongs came out, the HQs were the hands down the best prop for a high kV motor. I went to 2600 kV RCX motors when I wanted to, this was, you know, a year ago when I wanted to start exploring high kV. And the problem is that there weren't almost no decent props for the high kV motors. they have less torque, and so they need a lighter prop. But the problem was that all the light two-blade props, hang on, I think this one's done. Yeah, it's done. Let's get the temperature. 125. 125. Yeah, 124. So that's not great. That's not great. We're going to call that one 125. That was a Revolectrix Blend 435 GoPack Silver Label 1550 70C. With a temperature of 125, that's not ideal. The performance was okay, but I'm not a fan of high volts. Crap! I lost my train of thought. I was in the middle of saying something. Well, there you go. Oh yeah, you couldn't get good props for high kV motors. There was gem fans. It was all two blades, and you didn't get any thrust. And all the three blades were these heavy bull noses at the time, and were no good for the lower torque of the 2600 kV motor. And the HQ 5x4x3 was the only thing that could handle the RPMs of the higher kV motor and give you thrust and good handling. And thankfully now we've got a lot more durable props out there that can do a little better job in those situations. This is a dangerous. This battery is dangerous. Watch out. Dangerous. This is a 1500 4S. Dangerous. 70C is what it's rated. We'll see about that. Somebody was asking in the chat about the dangerous. There it is. Yeah, the Racecraft 5051s. I think the Racecraft 5051s are probably, I mean, I prefer, it's like the people who prefer, different types of engines on a car. Some people like a turbocharged 4-cylinder. Some people like a big, high displacement 8-cylinder, right? Different ways of running. And I like light props with high kV motors. I've heard that there are racers who are really doing great on the Racecraft 5051s. And like somebody told me that Anub runs, I don't know if this is true, just somebody told me, that he runs 5051s on like a 2207 2100 kV. And I don't know. I mean, the guy obviously knows about racing. But personally, I like the lighter props with higher kV. Okay, here goes. The dangerous. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, respectable. I do not try many new props. I'm so busy making videos and testing things. I don't get as much time to fly as I would really like anyway. So I don't feel like I have a lot of taste for trying every last new thing. Mr. Steele said a very smart thing a while back when he said that, if you're always flying a different copter, you'll never get as good because you're always adjusting to what the copter's doing. And he builds the same copter 3 times and flies the exact same copter every time and sticks with it. I want to get good. I've got a copter that flies how I want it to fly. It flies great. I love how it flies. I don't want anything from it different. I want it to keep doing what it's doing, right? So I don't feel any need to try different stuff. I do try different stuff because, with a YouTube channel, I different tests and shootouts. But at the end of the day, I feel like I've really found what works for me, and I want to stick with it. And I tried 2300 kV motors for a while. I liked 2600. I was having good results with them. I said, well, maybe I'm missing out on 2300 with heavier props. And I tried them, and no, I like the 2600 with the lighter props. So I'm going to be sticking with those going forward. And maybe there's something too, like a 5051 on a 2207 2600 kV or 2100 kV. But that's just a different realm. And that's racing, whereas I'm more of a freestyle pilot. I think this one's almost done. Give it one more. Okay. 119. 119. Yeah, we're going to call that 119. That was the dangerous 1500. There's your specs. And that's that one. That one seemed okay. I was kind of talking through most of it. Adam, I did not replace that motor. The one I broke when the copter flipped out. I did not replace that. I'm working with that vendor. I'm working with that vendor to make some changes to that copter. We'll see that one a little later, but not right now. This is the Multicopter Builders Graphene 1500 4S. Multicopter Builders. Yeah. Well, that was the first burst, not spectacular. Let's see if the second one's better. No, not spectacular. Yeah, it's okay. It's not bad. I tested one R-line battery. I don't remember exactly which one it is. You can look at my spreadsheet and you can see it did. Let's put it this way: the R-line battery I tested did not live up to the hype, but it would have had to really crazily knock it out of the park to live up to the insane amount of hype that's built around those batteries. So I can't tell. I don't know. A lot of times there's a lot of hype around a battery when I test it. It's okay. It's not great. It's not it's not bad. And I don't know why people are so excited about it. Maybe and I can't decide if I'm missing something. Like, what am I doing? I'm not racing. I'm just freaking throwing a switch, right? Maybe I'm missing something if all these guys are insane about it. Or maybe it's just the hype train, chicka chicka choo choo. And I don't know. I just make my videos. Oh, board quads, that's mean. Come on. Let's talk about punching Casey Neistat's face in. That's better. Not Mr. Steele. Come on, he's one of us. No, don't pick on Casey Neistat because I hear his followers really don't like when you do that. Casey Neistat's wonderful. I really liked Steele's new haircut when he had that that sort of wave hair. Then he sort of shaved it all in the back as well. I liked his hair. I mean, I know he hated it and he was sad he got it. You know, he had to get his haircut because the person screwed up. That's always sad. But I thought his new haircut looked really, really, especially with the hipster mustache. I thought it looked really distinguished. I thought when I saw Casey doing that human carrying quad, he's had a ton of flyaways, right? I thought the best way for that video to end would be if it was like, oh crap, we're in failsafe, where's it going? Flies into the sunset with carrying him with it. I was like, well, that's clearly how this is going to end. Every video he does where he has a quadcopter, he has a failsafe and it flies away. I was a little disappointed that didn't happen. Alright, this one's done. 117, 119, 17, 16, 18, 120. So this is around 119 or 120. This is the Multicopter Builders Graphene 1500. There's the results. And away we go. Oh. I live in Knoxville. I'm also amazed he doesn't get in trouble with the FAA. I don't know if secretly he has all the permits he needs or whatever. I mean, the thing is, just because you see an aerial shot doesn't mean he's taking it with the Mavic. I mean, he could hire a helicopter, or he could hire a professional pilot with a 107 to do it and get all the certs, right? For all we know, every shot you've seen him do has been 100% legal, and he just plays it up like, yeah, I'm gonna go fly my Mavic over LA. Yeah, it's cool. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes, and dude has a lot of money. He's producing a television show. When you see when you see, Wives of New Jersey or whatever, and they're like flipping tables, do you really think that? I mean, that's just acting, right? It's a television show. Casey's making a show. So, despite the fact that we see him repeatedly break the rules, it's possible that it's all legit. We don't know. I mean, I'm just trying to give the guy the benefit of the doubt, and I'm trying not to look like a chump if I get all worked up and then later it turns out, no, it was all legit. But I am amazed he doesn't get in more trouble with the FAA. Because, New York is like a totes no-fly zone, especially now that the president-elect lives there. So, I just don't think there's any way that all the things he's done could possibly be legit. But also, if you ask yourself, is he just like a Yahoo who, I mean, he's a professional filmmaker, he's a celebrity, he's presenting a certain image, and he gets people riled up. He knows that getting people riled up gets him views. I wouldn't put it past him to do things that appear unsafe just to get views. Oh shit, you guys, I lost another drone. Just like the guys who smash an iPhone, right? They buy the new iPhone 7 and they freaking hit it with a hammer and smash it. They're doing it to get views, right? And so I wouldn't put it past him to be doing things to get views. So, anyway. This is the StxS Power sticks. This is StxS. This was sent to me by Ready Made RC. Thank you, RMRC, for sending this. Plugs to them. It's a 1550 milliamp hour 95C4S. And let's see how it does. Yeah, realistically, I mean, I'm trying to give the guy the benefit of the doubt. Realistically, he probably just flies a freaking Mavic over New York City and nobody notices and nobody has the time to deal with him, right? Probably. But it's possible he's not. Oh, that's pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty good. Oh, geez, that's pretty good. Wow. Wow. Oh, it is a good battery. Wow. Wow. Holy crap. Holy crap, this is a good battery. You guys should feel these cables getting hot under my hand. I can feel them getting hot. Wow. Wow. That is mighty good. Oh my gracious. Spectacular. Wow. Okay. Spectacular. Spectacular. That did great. XT60 is warm. We pulled 832 milliamp hours in one big surge at 60 amps. Really, really respectable. Really respectable. That's great. This is the best battery so far in this test, I think. Oh man. Oh man. See, that's really good. How's the temperature? I think we're just about done. I'm going to check the temperature. 122, 121. 120. I'm not getting any 120s on the other side. 118, 119. So we had a 122, but now immediately we're not getting it anymore. Now we're at 117. I think there's a 120, 121. Okay, so we're going to call this 121. That's the StxS 1550 4S. Very, very respectable battery. That first surge was really long. Very respectable. Oh. Let's see here. Turnigy Nanotech. I'll tell you what about Nanotech. By the way, if you do want to buy a StxS as a result of that, buy it from Ready Made RC, who was kind enough to send this to me. There's a plug, right? Buy it from whoever, but let you know. Nanotechs were my first batteries that I ever bought when I got into the hobby, and they lasted over a year. They lasted a long time. They are not spectacular performers. They're solid performers, and they lasted a long time. And I know I've heard people say, oh, this was back when Nanotechs were the hot battery. Now we've all moved on, of course. But people were like, oh, yeah, Nanotechs, they're fragile. They die really soon. I had great experience with them. I mean, they were like 45C, which means that they were actually like 20C. They're not high-end, high performers like some of the higher-end batteries we've got today. But, you know, if you're not really cranking it too hard, they're solid. You'll outgrow them, though. You'll outgrow them pretty quickly if you're an aggressive pilot. Can I put the exact in the chat box? What does that mean? Can I put the exact model of the battery? I don't know about that. I'll tell you, though. I did realize that I'm taking the battery and I'm showing it to you, and then I'm putting it over here, which on my video camera means I can see it. But for you guys means it's covered up by the chat window. Oops, it's covered up by the chat window. Sorry about that. Let's see, maybe I can fix that. Hold on. No, I don't know. There you go. This is a Ready Made RC 1300. This is an RMRC Orange. Orange is their house line. It's a 1300 4S. Let's see how it does. Or maybe I can put it. There's nowhere I could put it where you can actually see it, unfortunately. Ready Made RC. This is a Ready Made RC 1300. Somebody else type it into chat for me, okay? Thank you. Maybe Peter, you can type it into chat. 16.85. Here we go. Yeah, that wasn't great. That wasn't great. Yeah, Borg, I'm aware that some of these batteries have plates, or the color of the plastic might make a difference in the heat transmission. Again, that falls under what can I do? If that affects the results, so be it. We accept that as an experimental error, and we just get on with our lives. I do try to take the temperature from all over the whole battery, so I sort of swipe the heat gun over the whole battery, trying to find and I take the highest temperature that I can see. Yeah, I mean, obviously Ready Made RC they don't make their own batteries, right? So who knows what they're rebranding. Someone has suggested that they're Bonkas in the chat. Maybe they are. I don't know. I tested an R-Line, the watch, and it did okay, but I don't remember it doing great. You can check my spreadsheet. It's in the video description of my previous videos. I've got a spreadsheet with all of the results from all of my testing. I remember that I only remember it because it had so much hype that I was like, well, maybe it'll do spectacular. But I think it did okay, but I don't think it did great. So this one's getting pretty close to done. You can see it's basically immediately hitting 13.99 volts. It's not at 15 volts yet, resting, but as soon as I hit it, it sags below 14 volts. So this, we're going to keep going. This I would not call this a 60 amp battery. Like, let's say that you're pulling 60 amps semi-regularly, big punch outs for a few seconds. You say, well, what battery do you want? Some of these batteries, you could pull a 5-second 60 amp punch out and you'd still be going strong at the end of it. This battery, yeah, even the first couple bursts were only a few seconds. I wouldn't call this spectacular for 60 amp punch outs. Doesn't mean it's a bad battery. It just means that it's not a high discharge battery. But for mini quads, a lot of us are going for high discharge, aren't we? And the thing is that you look at these batteries, and some of them are $40 for a mediocre battery and $25 for a great battery, at which point you buy the $25 great battery, don't you? Unless there's some hidden factor that I'm not aware of. 121 degrees, 121 degrees. And that was the 1300 milliamp hour already made RC orange. And here's your stats. We're getting to the end here. Yeah, 10K, 1500 performs better than 1300 because the larger the battery's capacity, the lower the C rate the discharge will be. So 1C for a 1500 battery will be 1.5 amps. 1C for a 1300 battery will be 1.3 amps. And the C rating, all else being equal, is what matters. The battery has to work just as hard to make 1C, whether that 1C is 20 amps or whether it's 1 amp. So take a 20,000 milliamp hour battery. 1C is 20 amps. That battery is working just as hard putting out 20 amps as a 1,000 milliamp hour battery is putting out 1 amp. They're both working just as hard, or just as not hard. So a 1500, being a slightly larger battery, is working at a slightly lower C rating for the same amps. And that's why a 1500 usually outperforms, both in terms of obviously in terms of capacity, but also in terms of current. Yeah, the capacity isn't that different, but what's 1500 out of 1300? Hold on, I'll tell you. 15% bigger. 15% bigger. So that's not nothing. Yep, the StxS 1550 is the real rock star so far. Now I have 4 more batteries. We're actually coming to the end here. Thank you guys for sticking with me. I've had a great time. This is way more fun to do hanging out with you guys and chatting than sitting by myself in a room alone. But here's what we've got. We've got these batteries. These are Onbo batteries. They are graphene. Oh, interesting. This one is graphene. Let's see. Is this one graphene? This one is just lithium. So I've got a 1500 graphene, a 1300 LiPo, a 1300 graphene, and a 1500 LiPo. So I've got 2 1500s, one graphene, one not, and 2 1300s, one graphene, one not. And the vendor rushed these to me to get them into the test. So definitely let's find out how they're good. The Black Label was good. It was good. It was very good, actually. The Black Label was very good. You can look back through the results to find it. I'll try to put timestamps in the video description. But the Black Label, I think, was maybe second best. I would say, just from memory. All right, so let's start with the 1500 LiPo. This is the Onbo 1500 LiPo 95C, and then we're going to do the 1500 graphene 80C, and we'll compare them. They are about the same size. You can see about the same size. Let's check them that way. One is the LiPo is, I think, just a smidge thicker, but they're very close to the same size and similar in weight. This is the Onbo 1500 lithium, not graphene. Here we go. The guy who sent me these batteries said that he's had great results with them. He finishes races where other racers are just sort of limping in on their batteries. Their batteries are dead and sagging, and his has got more to give. He said he's had great results with them. And it looks to be a pretty solid performer so far in my tests, so that's good. Always nice when my test results line up with reality. Yeah, no, this is good. So this is really good. Oh man, this is solid. There you go. That was pretty solid. That was pretty solid. I can't tell if it was longer than the StxS. I'm going to have to go back to the replay for that. Oh yeah, this is a good battery. So I see somebody in the chat saying if you want to see batteries tested, contact Hobby King to send him some. I actually have a contact at Hobby King. I'm in contact with a person at Hobby King, and the problem is that just communication with them is a little. I think they're just really busy, and or I don't know. Communication with them is a little flaky. Sometimes I've asked for things and they've been like, yeah, absolutely, I'm going to send it. And then it doesn't come, and I don't know if it just, I don't know what happened. So I have kind of stopped asking Hobby. Sometimes they send me things spontaneously, and I'm like, oh, thank you. But I've kind of stopped asking them for things because, I don't know, you ask for something and it doesn't come, and then you're like, well, I don't know. So I don't think 122... 122, 121... That's okay. Oh, 124 is not great. I would be more unreservedly happy about this battery if it was under 120. 124 is really on the edge, but the performance was very good. So there is the 1500 95C 4S non-graphene standard LiPo from Onbo. And let's do the 1580C graphene. So here is the graphene version of basically the same battery. I guess what I was saying about Hobby King there is that if I ask Hobby King for a battery and for whatever reason, whether accident or whatever, it doesn't come, there's not a lot of point in you asking him for a battery to send me. I think they're willing, but sometimes they don't deliver. And hey, it's Hobby King, right? Sometimes, you order things from Hobby King and they don't come. Okay, I couldn't resist. Here we go. This is the graphene version. Let's see how good it is compared to the other one. Now, the graphene, my test results don't entirely capture some of the benefits of graphene, which is graphene is supposed to have a much, much longer cycle life than standard lithium chemistry. So in my testing, I'm just testing the current capacity, right? But I can't do 200 tests and see how they are after that. So if you have a graphene battery that performs slightly worse than a standard LiPo, maybe it's still worth getting because you're going to get a lot more money's worth out of it in terms of overall lifespan. And that's something I don't focus on in my test because I'm just not going to do 100 cycles. I'm not going to do it. It's too much. But, oh, that was really good, actually. That was really good. But you should keep that in mind. I'm only testing like one axis, which is current carrying capacity and power per gram and so forth. There's a lot of other things to think about, including price and longevity that I'm not testing. Well, I guess I'm testing. I do put price on the spreadsheet. But longevity, I'm just not prepared to test. And that's why the high volts slip through my testing. They do great for the first, 20 cycles, but then they're done. And I only discovered that after I flew them. And so, the graphenes may be getting unfairly disadvantaged by my test protocol not taking longevity into account. You guys are educated consumers, though, and I'm sure you'll think about that. Turnigy graphenes. Logan, I have not flown the Turnigy graphenes, but enough people have told me that they're very good that I believe they're probably worth a buy. There we go. That's going to be the end of this one, I think. Very respectable results. 119. It's even a little cooler. Let's check the other side. 120. It's even a little cooler. Yeah. Okay, so this is the graphene 1500. It's only labeled 80C. I have to say, between this and the LiPo, the fact that this graphene finished at 120 and the LiPo finished at 124, 125, and this one was very good in terms of its current capacity. I think it was slightly not as good as the non-graphene, but I would pick this one on the premise that the graphene, it finished the test cooler. That suggests that it may have a longer lifespan, and the performance in terms of current was completely respectable. Now, if you parallel charge and balance charge, and I have a video about, if you search for parallel charging and balance charging on my channel, you can find it. Parallel charging just makes the packs into one big pack. So if balance charging works when you charge a single battery, it works when you parallel charge a bunch of batteries. The only catch is this. Let's say you've got 10 batteries and you put them in your parallel charge board, and one of them has a bad cell. That cell is never going to hit 4.2 volts, and it is going to keep sucking current from the other cells. And potentially, the best case scenario there is that the charger times out and just finishes and the pack isn't balanced. It just doesn't finish charging it. And the worst case scenario is that the damaged cell sucks all the other cells down to an unhealthy voltage and destroys them. So you need to check your batteries before you plug them into the balance board. You need to check them to see that they're all at roughly the same level of charge. 0.1 volts per cell is the guideline that I use. And you also want to pay attention while you're charging them. If you've got one cell that just isn't balancing, you may want to stop. But if you've got healthy batteries, you can parallel charge them. It's fine. Don't charge faster than 1C, where C that's the combined capacity of all of the packs. So if you have 5 1000 milliamp hours, that's 5 amps you could charge at, which for 1C. Don't charge faster than that, and make sure your batteries are reasonably healthy. Don't have a bad cell. If you plug them in and you have one with a bad cell, it'll kill all the others. So that's a risk. But if you are smart about it, you can certainly mitigate that risk. And frankly, parallel charging is the only way to charge the kind of batteries we use in mini quads. How are you going to charge 10 1300s other than parallel charging in a reasonable amount of time? You're going to buy 10 different chargers, 10 different AccuCell 6s? Okay. Probably not, though, right? Anyway, that's what I think. 6-year. This is the 1395C standard LiPo. Standard LiPo 1300 from Onbo. Here we go. And these will probably be slightly worse than the 1500s because they're a little smaller, but there you go. The cells do even out. Matt, whenever you plug in two batteries in parallel, they seek the same voltage. That's the nature of parallel connections. So if you have two devices in parallel that are at a different voltage, they will exchange current until they reach the same voltage. Which means the higher battery will discharge into the lower battery, and that's why you cannot have excess voltage difference. If you have excess voltage difference, the higher battery will dump 20 amps into the lower battery, which isn't a safe charge rate, and the lower battery will blow up. If you have a small difference in voltage, the current flow will be small. The batteries will equalize after about, say, 10 minutes, they'll be equalized. There's an initial, I have a video I made about the surge current when you plug batteries into a parallel charge board. I have a whole playlist about parallel charging. And it may be, as much as 10 or 12 amps for a second or two, but then it quickly drops off. And after about 10 minutes at most, I would say, there's basically no current flowing. They've all equalized. Yeah, 120 amps, what battery should you use? I mean, first of all, accept that you're going to destroy every single battery you use. There's no battery that can deliver 120 amps without just eating itself up, okay? So that's just not, there's no legit 120 amp battery. Now, for example, the Indestructible Quads showed a test where they pulled 130 amps and the battery basically dumped its whole charge down to 13.6 volts. That's certainly a usable battery. There are some batteries that at 120 amps would not be usable. They just would sag and die. There are other batteries that will be usable, and you can look at my test results to see which ones are better and which ones are worse. But here's the thing. You're not pulling 120 amps because you're not at full throttle most of the time. I bet you. So the fact that you can pull 120 amps at peak doesn't necessarily mean that you need a battery that can deliver 120 amps continuous, which none of them can. But some of them come close. Almost done here. Let's hit one more time. Yeah, okay. That one is done. 121. 121. We'll call that 121 degrees for the 1395C non-graphene 4S. There's the stats. And this is it. This is the last one. This is the Onbo 1300 graphene. We're just going to compare that to the non-graphene. 1300 graphene. Here we go. Yeah, the Eachine Wizard. I mean, I have a Wizard on the way for review. After the Eachine Falcon, I kind of didn't want to, but people said, no, the Wizard is good. The Wizard is good. You should try it. So far be it from me to to deny my fans. So I have a Wizard on the way for review sometime in January, but the Racer, by all accounts, is garbage. Sorry you bought one. So the Wizard kind of has to be better than that. 1500 versus 1300, only you can answer that question. You do notice the difference. A 1500 is going to be 20 or 30 grams heavier than a 1300. You do notice that difference in weight. It is noticeable. But, you know, it's different capacity and different flight time, too. You just have to try them both and see if there's not a clear advantage or clear distinction where it's worth it or not. It's slightly heavier, your copter will punch slightly less, it'll climb slightly slower, and it'll turn slightly more lumbery. But you'll get a little bit more amps, a little less sag, and a little more flight time. So I can tell you that I flew 1500 and 1300 Mad Dogs for about 2 months, and I kind of would just put them on the copter and go fly and not really significantly notice the difference. Doesn't mean there wasn't a difference, just that on between the two of them, I wasn't finishing them going, wow, that pack lasted a long time. Oh, that one was short. They're pretty similar. This one is done. 120, 120, 118. Oh, where was that 120? Come on. 116, 118. Well, 17. I think we're going to call this one 119. That's the graphene. 119. It is finished. And there's the results. And that is the last one. There they are, folks. There they are. Big pile of batteries. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. that's going to be it for the live stream. Let me just check the comments real quick. Make sure I didn't miss any battery. Oh, hang on. Did I miss one? Did I miss one? Did I test this one already? Hold on. Is this one charged up? Oh, I missed one. Ha! Good for me. Well, you guys get one more freebie here. This is the GNB 1300. I apparently did not test this one. There we go. Let's get this one out of the way. Hang on. Here we go. Yeah, that wasn't spectacular. When's the next live stream? This is the 1300 110. 1300 110. I don't know when the next live stream will be. I live stream whenever I feel like it. I try to do maybe 2 live streams a month. I would do more. I know people like them a lot, and they get, frankly, they get me a lot of views, and they get a lot of ad revenue. So I mean, I should do more of them, but they're also kind of technically challenging. You guys should see the setup I've got here. Hang on. See, I got a microphone and a camera, and anyway, they're kind of technically challenging, and anyway, so maybe 2 a month, but I don't know when the next one will be. I couldn't say. I wish I could, because then you'd be like, oh, I'll show up. If I were better at promoting myself, I'd tell you when the next live stream was going to be, and then I'd, you know, you'd all be there, and I'd build a following, but I can't do that. Part of it is that in January I have my work schedule is really busy in January, so I'm not sure when I'm going to have time for that. What's my conclusion on the batteries I've tested? The Indestructible Quads Black Label was quite good. The StxS was quite good. The Onbo 1500s were very good. I think the Onbo 1500 graphene is really interesting because it's a graphene, but it also delivered very good current capacity, which graphenes often do not do. I think if I were going to buy one right now, I think I would check out the Onbo 1500 graphene, 80C, 85C, only because I'm curious about graphenes right now. The Indestructible is a standard LiPo, though, and did a fantastic job. I'm just curious about what kind of cycle life you're going to get out of a standard LiPo versus graphene. And the StxS from Ready Made RC did a very, very good job. Had actually probably the longest discharge of the whole test. Matt, yeah, well, I never intend to quit my day job. Apparently, I just intend to work 2 jobs. So there you go. I like my day job. You know, so, and you're not paying me enough that I can quit work yet. Although there are people out there who live on less than I make between YouTube and Patreon, which I don't mean to in any way disrespect by not saying that I'm not ready to quit my job just to make that money yet. All right, that one's done. 121. Yeah, 120, 121. Where is it? 119. All right, that was the GNB 1300 110C. There's your stats. Let me zoom in on those so I make sure I get them. There they are. That is going to do it. That's the last one. Make sure here. Yep, that's the last one. All right, guys. 1.3 or 1.5 hectare. I don't care. I've gone back and forth. I just fly. Just give me a bat. I don't notice a big difference. I'll tell you this. 1,000 is too small. The copter is light, and you're like, oh man, this thing's so punchy. But then like 30 seconds later, your battery's done. So 1,000 is too small, and 1,800 is too big. 1,800 is heavy, is bad. But 1,300 or 1,500, I don't really care. There you go. All right, folks, that's going to do it. I'm going to close this one out. Thank you for watching. Thanks for being here. The video will go up. I think the video goes up Saturday. Tomorrow I'm going to edit it. It'll go up Saturday. if you want to hear my thoughts. But yeah, now you know. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out. Happy flying.